Hello and welcome, I'm Nathan42 and in this video I'm going to talk about TrueNAS SCALE. Okay, so TrueNAS, just to give you a slight history, used to be called FreeNAS. There was an operating system called FreeNAS, which then transferred into TrueNAS Core. Now, they're both free operating systems. They're both network attached storages, and they both are pretty much the same thing. Just one is converting into the other. So FreeNAS was the original. That now is converting into TrueNAS Core in order to, I guess, kind of mix the brand all together to keep TrueNAS the full system. As you can see up here, they have a couple of different ones. You've got TrueNAS Core, Enterprise Scale, and TrueCommand. TrueCommand is part of the bit on top, I guess. So you have the operating system, TrueNAS, FreeNAS, and TrueNAS Core both run on FreeBSD, which itself is a very solid server operating system. If you're not a server, I guess a lot of people just wouldn't really have the requirement to use FreeBSD, but it runs in a very similar way to the ways that Linux does run. So Linux and FreeBSD share a lot of similarities in the way that they work. BSD is a bit more secure, a bit more functional. A bit more secure, a little less functional. But Linux does have all of the extra capabilities from huge amounts of people creating loads of different systems out there for Linux, and Docker and all these other kind of things that come with Linux. TrueNAS Core, which is what I have upgraded my server to now, is a great software. It's solid, reliable, which is the same as solid really. It's fast, and it does everything you really need when it comes to storage on a network, which is what a NAS is all about really, when you come to think about it. But it does lack in some areas. Now, a lot of the applications that you want to install on top of TrueNAS or FreeNAS don't work very well in FreeBSD. So at the moment I have MB. MB does work perfectly fine in FreeBSD. There's no issues with that there. Nextcloud does not, however. And anything else in Linux or virtual machines and stuff like that, it just doesn't really run that smoothly through TrueNAS or through FreeBSD, because the support and the people behind it, rallying behind it to try and unify all servers into one box wasn't really a thing. Like, file servers were FreeBSD, and then you'd have like a separate box for application servers, which is the thing that I'm looking into at the moment. And I don't really want to have multiple boxes for servers in my house. It's great that I have the ability to have network attached storage, a NAS of sorts, and I think TrueNAS Core is great if you just want that function. If you just want that function and you want it to work well, if you just want that function and you want it to work well, then TrueNAS is a solid way to get that done. Now, TrueNAS SCALE, we'll move on. TrueNAS SCALE is, SCALE stands for Scale Out. Actually, I'll go down here a little bit. Scale Out ZFS, Converged Storage and Compute, Active Operation, Linux Containers, and Easy to Manage. So, this is TrueCommand here, I believe. I'm pretty sure it is anyway. I think this is what the web UI is called. TrueCommand is really cool. It allows you to do everything you need with your system, but on a web platform. So you can then go to one of these lovely web platforms that I have up here, and you can view all of this stuff in one very nice, easy to view place. What I'll do is I'll have a look at the other things up here. So Scale Out is OpenZFS, which is not usually standard to Linux machines, but is becoming more and more standardized, I guess. And Gluster, which is for clustering multiple computers together, so that they can work efficiently as one big computer, I guess. Hyperconverged, which is essentially a similar thing to that, but with, I'm guessing, computing power, and then containers and VMs. I have spent a long time trying to get VMs to work on TrueNAS Core, and TrueNAS Core is not, for me anyway, I mean, I've got a very small machine that I'm using. It's not built per se for virtual machines on top of a NAS software. It's not a hugely strong machine, but it should be able to at least run some sort of virtual machine. It would have probably 1 or 2 gigabytes of RAM in which it would be able to actually perform tasks from virtual machines, especially from Linux virtual machines, which typically don't run as much headroom as your typical Windows machines would. So that, and Docker, which is kind of like a virtual machine but not a virtual machine, because it runs in the same system, but it's a small container that holds that stuff, and it holds, and nothing can escape that container, nothing can go in without things being specifically allowed to do so, which is really useful for separating out applications and allowing you peace of mind that if one application was to be compromised, then it's not going to leak out to the entire rest of the system just naturally. Like you can't gain say root on a dock and then transfer files into the base system unless you know exactly what you're doing, kind of thing. And even when you know exactly what you're doing, it makes it a lot harder to do so, especially if you've put things in place. So what this says to me is they're not trying to just encompass the network attached storage side anymore, but they're also trying to incorporate the application side, which is the main, which is one of the other main parts that you would think of when you're running your own home server. So a lot of people would use the storage side as just one box. A lot of people would use the app side as a separate box. Unifying all of that into one box can really, shrink the amount of hardware that you need for your home setup. If you was to have a setup with this kind of stuff, obviously you have the risk that if you put stuff onto, Google Cloud or Facebook or Google Photos, someone could hack that software. They could then find all of your important documents if you was to put your important documents on there, and potentially you could have bank accounts hacked, you could have personal identification leaked, that kind of thing. That's the risk of having all these things out on public clouds, and sometimes that won't even be at the detriment of your own account being hacked. It can be down to the actual service being hacked. So say Google was hacked, hypothetically speaking, obviously it's going to be very difficult, or maybe even an insider wanted to get access to certain bits of information. Now I don't know if they do encrypt it internally so their internal staff can't see files on your storage or not. Hypothetically speaking, if you bring it all in-house, you have the exact access and the exact knowledge over where your data is, and also where, if you was going to be using it for MB and stuff like that, you have your own ability to create your own Netflix from your own videos. If you have your DVDs or a big DVD collection, you can rip all your own DVDs. I believe that's legal in most places, and have a virtual library instead of a physical one, which might not be very aesthetically pleasing if you have a room in your house, like your living room or whatever, without much space, and you don't want to have all your DVDs just laying around the place. Or if you don't think it's cool to have like full libraries of DVDs in your living room anymore, because it's old medium, it's old hat. Now I think I've probably talked enough about what they are. What I'm going to do is show you what currently is available on TrueNAS Scale, and we will go from there. So I'll go on to my TrueNAS Core first. So let's log into this one. Here's the interface. You can see this on my network. This is my actual NAS box here with it's a N54L dual core processor. It's not a very strong processor. It's not a very powerful computer. It runs around about 55 degrees, which, when I move house, which will eventually happen in the next 4 to 6 months, I guess, This will most likely go under the stairs, and that room should be able to handle this server at this heat, which would be okay. The memory is ECC memory. This is a HP micro server. I forget what the actual full name of it is, but that's what it is. It's cool, it's nice, it's a little box. I've got four terabyte drives here, and the available space of 7.96 terabytes. So I have a Z1 is what they call it, which means that I have one drive redundancy. So if one of the drives of the 4 drives dies, I will still have all of my data, and I can replace that drive, rebuild it, and all of my data will be back again, spaced across all 4 drives, and I will be able to lose another drive and still keep all of my data. Now when it comes to this kind of stuff, like, there's lots of different things that people say, try different batches, try different drives, I don't know, things like this. I think it's nice to keep them all the same type of drive. If you can use different serial numbers by batch, so obviously the first 5 digits of the serial number usually, then that means that they'll have different build qualities, and some might last longer than others because of that. It's always good to have an extra drive on hand. You may not have that luxury, but it is nice. It is a nice thing to have. So yeah, if we were to look on here you have something called plugins, and plugins use something called jails. As you can see here, I'm running a MB and Nextcloud and a Qubit torrent server, mainly for my media, for my cloud, and also to help share ISOs for Linux distros, stuff like that. Under jails, I have a couple of extra ones. So we have all these things. Yeah, we have a web server. So I've set up a web server on here that allows me to write web pages under its own little server that you can turn up and down or put on and off, and an app server which doesn't actually work, because this is what I was trying to do to get the other thing going. I will stop that now. There we go, stop that jail. But yeah, that is the main thing that I'm talking about when it comes to this one. If we go to network, storage, pools. This is all the different pools that I have, which allows you to see how you kind of regulate things around in systems. Plugins will put themselves in different places. So in the IO cage, that's where the plugins will put themselves, and they'll install themselves, that kind of stuff, which is nice. And it all just kind of works really well. So this is TrueNAS Core. If we go into services, the services are all here. You can use dynamic DNS. That's the only thing that I've really used so far. So as you can see, there's not a huge amount that I am trying to do here, but this is TrueNAS Scale here. Okay, so as you can see here, we have TrueNAS Scale, and this is a operating system that is being worked on at the moment. So I've not really had the time or the patience to go and set up some storage on here. Yeah, so I'm not going to set up any pools just yet, because I have not configured any disks for this virtual machine. This is running in a virtual machine, by the way, so this is a Linux version running in the virtual machine. There's no disks apart from the very own one of these, and apparently they do recommend that you use a USB drive for these as well, which is the same as what they did on TrueNAS Core. As it would, what it does is it copies all the information from the USB drive into RAM, and then everything runs on the website from RAM, so you don't have to keep writing to and from the USB drive, because that would obviously damage a USB drive pretty quickly if you had to write a lot of information to it fairly regularly. So the data protection parts are here, the network parts are here. This looks all quite nice, and is really great. There's OpenVPN, so you can set up a VPN server here quite easily. There's credential parts here. There's actually extra parts on here from last time when I looked. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you have local groups, directory services, so there's Kerberos, Active Directory, stuff like this. LDAP, LDMAP. Yeah, you got two-factor auth in here as well, which is always really cool to have. Cloud credentials, so if you really want to, you can connect, I'm guessing, with your, can you connect with your Google Drive? Yeah, you can connect your Google Drive through here as well. Look at that, that is nice. And I'm guessing maybe you can use that as sync one of those with like a section on your one of your drives, I guess. Maybe, I'm not entirely sure, but hopefully that would be a thing that can be done, because I do like having that kind of all unified into one place. Virtual machines, so this is where you can do things with virtual machines. Now I'm not sure entirely if they use Beehive on here for virtual machines, which is what they used in TrueNAS Core. It would be good to know if they do or don't use that, because obviously in the past I did have issues with that. Yeah, it's not hooked up just yet, but yeah, you can see pretty much everything that you would be able to use with this. Here's the CPU usage. The time is completely wrong, actually. Maybe, oh, it's in LA times. Okay, yeah, so I'm in the UK, so this is not a good time for me. Yeah, and then if you go under system settings, you have here another update. So this is the nightlies, actually. So yeah, there's going to be an update every day pretty much for this thing, so that's really nice. And it's really good to see that it is being upgraded quite a lot, obviously every day, because it's a nightly update. But yeah, on here you have something where you can enter a license. Now I'm not really sure what that license is for, or if it unlocks extra features or anything like that. Yeah, but it, you know, it's nice, I guess. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's something that you'll have to buy at some point in this. I really hope not, because that's, you know, that's one of the things about free open software is really cool, is you don't have to pay for it. Although it would be nice if we could see and the next version of this. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next with this thing, because it does look like it's going to be a really good system. So under services, okay, I think I found a bug, to be fair. I think if you go on boot and then try to go to something else, it messes it up. I'm not sure why that would be, but it does do that, because it did that earlier as well. So under services, you got pretty much all the services have been ported over already. Obviously the storage part has been done, because otherwise there would be no real point in opening this up as a thing. TrueNAS has the shell here, and if you go into the shell, you can type lsp release a, and it says distributor ID Debian GNU Linux bullseye SID testing unstable. It's completely unstable. And then you have MISC down here, and this allows you to see other things. Your clustering, and these are all things that are coming soon, and also some of the more amazing parts that I'm really looking forward to. So I mean, if you look on here, go back into shell, you do have Docker is installed, which means it is there. They're just creating the front end for it right now, which could be one of the next features that shows up, and I'm really looking forward to this. So the nightlies are here, they're here to stay. This is something that I only found yesterday, TrueNAS Scale. I've been trying to look for the Linux version of this for a long time now, but yeah, it is here, and I will do another update on this when I find that the next level of features are installed, and I might even try and switch to it at that point, because I'm really interested in seeing what happens here, and I'd love to actually try this out for myself, because the unification of the NAS side and the app side really interests me, and also it would be great for my next server. So yeah, thanks for watching this. It's been quite a long one. I've been on a bit of a rant as well, so yeah, if you enjoyed that, let me know in the section below. If you disagree with anything I've said, leave it in the section below and we can talk about it. If you really enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, and I will speak to you in the next video. Thanks for watching.